When your daughter wants to be treated like a princess and she finds out she's being married off to the heir of the Belgian throne, yeah, maybe the life of a princess isn't exactly what you wanted. But me as your dad is definitely going to benefit. I'm trying to have a dynasty that rules over half of Europe. Just be happy you're not being treated like a queen in France. Marvel fans, whenever they watch a documentary about the fall of the Soviet Union and there's no post-credit scene teasing Vladimir Putin, how am I supposed to be excited to watch the sequel to this doc? The last frame doesn't look like this. I don't want to watch the next movie. French parents deciding whether to name their son Jean or Jacques. Oh man, this is embarrassing. Did he pronounce that name again?
Jacques.
Why do I feel like there's more popular French names than that though? What about like Jean-Claude? I mean, I guess they could always just do this. My entire argument when I accidentally start with as a Californian. I've unfortunately made this mistake all too many times. I pretty much just have to delete my account after that. Doesn't matter what else I'm gonna say. I do genuinely feel embarrassed when I have to say these three words. I usually just say the county where I live. I avoid saying the state at all costs. I was born with only 2 legs. Meanwhile, the talent show judges in Alabama. Can't even imagine being born with less than 2.5. This is actually how I won my birth state's talent show. It was actually pretty easy, believe it or not. Nicolas Cage, after being told he can't keep the Declaration of Independence after stealing it in National Treasure. You know, he was probably thinking, I wouldn't even have taken this job if I knew otherwise. I wouldn't even have wanted to get any pay. Just give me this sacred document and we'll call it even. When you get them something you really wanted for yourself, it's one of those times where you take it from them as soon as they open it up. Say, I know the perfect place to put this, and then you go stash it in your vault. Live look at Florida after Disney sues Ron DeSantis. I think Mickey's looking to get his revenge. It's gonna be the equivalent of like Godzilla attacking Miami. And I honestly thought this state couldn't possibly get any crazier.
How do you say
we apparently have
lion
a Chinese tongue twister.
Shi, eat,
Shi,
shi, bow, shi,
shi,
10, shi, addicted,
shi. Okay,
shi,
I can see
poet,
where this is going.
shi, stone room, shi, shi. Then how do you
Shi,
say
shi.
a poet named Shi, who was addicted to eating lions, lived in a
Okay.
stone room? He vowed to eat
I've seen many
10
examples of different
lions.
languages. And in those 30 seconds, you've summarized why Mandarin is so difficult. And to think they have about 500,000 words in their language, but I guess just by knowing shit, I know 12 already. To be honest, I've always heard Mandarin Chinese is the hardest for English speakers to learn, but at the same time, I've also heard some people say that's not actually true. I've also heard it's Hungarian because it's just so different. It's gonna be way harder to find things even about Hungarian than versus Chinese with 1.3 billion speakers. Me, when I suddenly forget a word in my native language, but I know it in English. This person is going down a very scary path. It'd be so terrifying just to continue to forget more and more. When people reject your theory that cannibalism can both solve world hunger and overpopulation, once again, I'm being attacked for presenting new ideas. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say this is a new idea. Pretty sure we've been practicing cannibalism for as long as humans have been around. It's just one of those things you kind of don't want to mention anymore. I guess for some reason the state of Florida is fully behind this idea though. Nothing rhymes with orange. Rorange rhymes with orange. What's a freaking rorange? A word I made up. It's defined as word that rhymes with orange. That's not how this freaking works. You never said it had to be technically in the English dictionary, so I guess this man has a point. What about gorge? Don't forget that. And forange? Iran in Hollywood movies versus Iran in real life. Seems like Hollywood has the backdrop down, just not the buildings part. They need more of those. A lot more of those, actually. One little house is not gonna do it. They also love to make all the things really yellow and the sky really blue. They're not exactly using the Mexico filter, but they're on their way. It's really only a matter of time. When your American friend imitates your Australian accent, but they sound distinctly British. I'm embarrassed to say that I do actually confuse the Australian accent with the British one, which I'm now just realizing the British accent is a really big term. There's a lot of other accents that lie in the British accent. Like, it's usually not a certain English accent that I confuse it with, what we tend in America to call fancy. It's one of these other ones, honestly, that I confuse sometimes with an Australian accent, even though I shouldn't. I don't know why I do that. I kind of just wait for the person to mention Vegemite or not, and that's how I know they're Australian. I answered an email from one of those African princes, and they actually paid up. Woo! Let's go. I'm a trillionaire in Zimbabwe. Let's see exactly how much US dollars this translates to. So with $100 trillion in Zimbabwe, you can buy 1 loaf of bread. Oh, wait a minute. Turns out there's actually a lot of trillionaires trillionaires in Zimbabwe. Probably everyone in Zimbabwe is a trillionaire. When the oldest written story from the oldest civilization starts with, "in those old days." Now this is a little terrifying. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, they talk about the good old days. Seems like there might be a lot of stuff we don't actually know. This is one of those things that reminds me that we've only really recorded about 1% of human history. We have no idea what happened outside of that. Hope this never happens. Here lies George Johnson, hanged by mistake in 1882. He was right, we was wrong, we was strong him up, and now he's gone. Wow, that is not where I expected this to go. Well, at least they had the courage to put the sign up. This is just like all the witches that we found in Salem. My email to my English teacher, "We the people." It also takes like 6 hours to make. Meanwhile, my teacher's reply. And honestly, if I was a teacher, I would probably do the same thing. I don't have time to respond to your Declaration of Independence. I gotta grade like 300 essays. Just throw the tea in the water already. Beer openers in the USA versus beer openers in Europe versus beer openers in the Balkans. They're kind of just built different down there. Okay, I know theoretically how you can open a beer on a table and I guess using your teeth, but these top two things I don't even want to know, just to be honest. I didn't even know that was possible. Americans today with a 40% tax. Cool. Americans in 1776 with a 2% tax. Like I said, get the tea, throw it in the water. Man, we gotta go back to the good old days. What happened to us? Oh no, we have you being controlled by the media. Who's controlled by the USA? Who's controlled by Russia? Who's controlled by the Illuminati? Who's controlled by the aliens? Who's controlled by the Almighty? We should have known, honestly. It was right here in front of us this whole time. And to think they thought they could get away with it. Me stopping the robot apocalypse from destroying the human race, all by deciding to use please to ChatGPT. I feel like it just comes naturally. I want to be nice even if it is a robot. Always got to practice good manners. You're welcome, world. Maybe it's just going to be one of those things where ChatGPT tells me and only me, don't come to school tomorrow. Private, I did not see you at camouflage class today. Thank you, Sergeant. Seems like these students actually need to be teaching the class. Sir, I'm afraid you're gonna have to be fired. Me, when I'm in a Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest and my opponent is Charlie Chaplin. Man, that would be quite the contest, that's for sure. Imagine just hundreds of people trying to dress like this guy. Let's just not hold this competition anywhere near the country of Germany. The trolley problem. 5 people will die no matter what, but if you pull the lever, the trolley does a sick backflip. Well, actually, it didn't say backflip per se, but it will do a sick flip. The choices. This one actually is a tough one, because I don't want their last moments to be kind of boring. Like, we might as well entertain them in their final 5 seconds. But it's also like I'm dabbing on the L they're gonna take, so maybe I shouldn't. I just don't know. America, my fellow Americans. Meanwhile, in China... Dang, what's up? China's just so much cooler. Why can't Joe Biden do this? Sup, DC. France, in 1915, needing more troops, remembering Algeria exists.
300 black men for only £2. Yes, sir.
I forgot they did this in World War I. WW1 was pretty brutal. Adulthood here running and chasing. Oh no, the kids from 1465. Oh man, I don't think the kids from 1466 are ready. They definitely aren't prepared to be adults just yet. First of all, if you can even say you made it to adulthood in 1466, that's a major accomplishment. It was pretty much like a coin toss. You'd make it to 18 anyways. You probably won't survive past 25 though, that's for sure. Chuck Norris driving a tank over cars through fireworks, pyrotechnics, and flags while firing guns is a U.S. caricature of itself. This is honestly the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, but honestly, I'm just disappointed we haven't done it way sooner. This should be like an annual tradition at this point. Study Russian grammar underwater so no one can see you crying. Fun fact, the pool was actually empty before he opened the book. He managed to fill the whole thing with his salty tears. Just looking at this thing for 2 seconds, I think I'm good. I don't think I want to learn Russian. When you find out that Russian has 3 genders for nouns, and I thought 2 was bad. I know a lot of languages have 2. For Slavic languages, it's male, female, and middle. Oh, and in German, it's masculine, female, and neutral. How it feels to have both your legs in the blanket versus how it feels to have both your legs out of the blanket. Finally, how it feels to have one of your legs out of the blanket. You can either burn in a pit of lava, freeze out here in the Arctic, or have it eaten off for your sleep paralysis demon. I'll be honest, every single night I have these 3 options, and I always go with just burn in a fiery pit of lava. I think it's obviously way better than the other 2. Luxembourg, Austria, and Germany with their their weird B. Meanwhile, literally all Americans, or anyone in the English language, I guess specifically English language. Or maybe not. Maybe people from Britain are obviously closer to Germany, so maybe they see it more often. I know that there are probably many Americans that have gone their entire life without ever seeing this character, though. Even scarier because it actually makes a sound. Doesn't make any sense. US warns countries that Russia and China could use nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, Japan, yeah, maybe you forgot here, US, but you kind of already did. But, you know, yeah, let's just not talk about it. It'd be nice to not have other countries join Japan here on this couch, though. That would be bad. Poland, when Article 5 is invoked. See, here's the thing, the tanks are nice, but those cavalry, that is even nicer. Really just improves the aesthetic of the whole thing. The choppers are, you know, kind of cool too, but really, give me those winged hussars. Film bros, when your favorite movie is Fight Club and not a black and white Polish movie from 1892 about a green horse named Davy Takes a Poop that is barely audible and extremely boring. And they are never going to forget this. They will always clown on you for it. I know, because before I dropped out of school, I was in film. This was every single one of the kids. I used to be that kid too, though. Used to always talk about this black and white film from the Soviet Union called The Cranes Are Flying. It is good though, I'm just gonna say that. Practically, it's really practical. This is the longest continuous path you can walk in the world. Fact check, that is actually false. This is definitely an example of a longer continuous path you can walk in the world, but you know what? Even this isn't the longest. Those squigglies really aren't squiggly enough. You'd like spend your whole life probably walking in a straight line just in like South Africa alone and it'd be longer. Come on guys, get your facts right. I just learned about what Japan did in WW2 class. I've been shaking and crying ever since. This isn't the Shogu Japan, I know. This can't be real. Japan would never do that. I know from anime that Japan would never do this. This is probably happening on a daily basis. How many weebs are having their entire life destroyed in 2023 just from one history class? I think the meltdowns are just gonna get worse and worse every year too. Me, a history fan, reading about anything that happened before 1750. Okay, if you're reading about it, yes, but you know, I don't know, watching documentaries, that's a whole other story. This is me reading anything, I'll be honest. Getting a rejection email with multiple fried chicken related puns is a new low for me. Thank you for the application to Team KFC. We're clucking delighted you're keen to join our flock. However, in this moment in time, your skills aren't the secret recipe the Colonel's looking for. But we'd love to hear from you again. Give us a cluck if you'd like to apply in the future. Best wishes. Thanks for that, KFC. I'm gonna go throw myself off a bridge now. And big thanks to my patrons. I am the kidnapper, and I've moved Drew to a Patagonian village. Is real. I'm not a Argentinian the
grandpa.
slow depressing Portugal collapse.
Colorblind.
Carmel Saida,
Bryton
Amateur,
GoodOldRyah.
Phresh. I've almost managed to escape the imposter. KirinoIsBestGirl, The Great Ralphy, Twickenhamster, Why.did.the.real.Drew.pay.his.imposter, $20.